definitely. Also, I wanted to share with you a few words, tips about how we as a Callstack do it. But before I do that, I want to tell you that at the beginning, the process itself has a bit of entry barrier to, to overcome. And what I mean by that is that you need to have a good grasp of the JavaScript side of React Native, as well as its underlying native internals. And in order to be fully effective, you should have at least an average understanding of native development, as you will work with the native code, to some degree at least. And what I'm trying to say is that it's good to know the environment. For example, imagine if you would like to renovate a house. So it's good to know which walls can be destroyed safely, where electric installation is, and how hydraulics looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think that average understanding of native technologies might not be enough. Maybe average understanding of the Android, iOS systems, sure, but then you have the whole native internals of React Native that you want to use. And that is not well documented, right? This is something that lives there. You can look at it. You can browse the repository, but it's not like the lines itself tell you what that's supposed to do, and if you can remove this part and your roof won't fall down.
Yeah. But positive thing is that once you establish a good Brownfield integration, you don't have to deal with the native code that much. What I try to say is that you need to understand a code in order to reverse engineer the requirements, or in case the requirements are not well documented, of course. But in general, it's good to have just an average grasp later. But for the beginning, the process of, let's say, establishing good Brownfield setup might require a bit more advanced knowledge and might require a bit more, let's say, diving into React Native code base itself.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to mention the other thing to consider while doing such migration, which is the people perspective. So maybe there is a team that is working on the legacy code base. In most cases, there is. And such migration is a long process. And during that process, you can focus on preparing the team to work on the new code base. Or maybe you would like to reallocate them to some other project at some point. But in both cases, they will have to operate in the existing app and tech stack for some time. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't want to introduce tooling that will decrease their productivity. And I'm mentioning that because we've had such case in the past. As when we started migration, we observed that the native team, that their performance fell. And after searching to the root cause of that, I observed that they had to, first of all, deal with the new tools like Node.js, Yarn, or Metro Bundler that are very common in JS or React Native environment, but for them it was new.
Those are common, but when you encounter a new error from Metro Bundler that I cannot find this one file in your node modules, and like it gives you like several different lines of how that file might be named, and you're like, what? Like, I'm not the owner of this node modules folder. I don't know what's going on there. So exactly. This can be a pain.
So at some point, they, for example, the team that operated in the app that we added React Native on top of, they did not know that they have to install dependencies, run npm install, run yarn, even though it was documented. No, not everyone has read it, and it is a problem. Of course, some trainings help, but you have to consider it. Then the second factor is that they had to observe changes in the repo that they did not fully understand. Hence, it was harder to perform quality code reviews. And it's also important because they have all of the product and technical context, and new changes, no code reviews, that is a problem at some point.
Yeah.
And the last factor was that they had to deal with the increased build time, as we had to build React Native related stuff. And each time they run the app, they had to do it over and over again. And the build time was increased, hence the developer experience wasn't as good as it was before,
Yeah.
at least for them. So anyway, we quickly realized that there is a lot of things to improve, at least on our side. And we started thinking on how to overcome these issues. And we came up with a great solution that we have been using in every project since then. So we created an engine to encapsulate React Native, JS bundle, assets, native classes, and all of that into one file, one native artifact. So native teams had to deal only with the final product, which were either a AAR file or XC framework file, and they were able to interact with it as they would interact with any other native UI library.
Yeah. So I was gonna say it's like adding manually library to your Android project. You just put the jar file in there and it works.
Yeah, or use some package manager. They could use Maven, or they could use CocoaPods, things that they are used to. So they didn't have to deal with React Native environment. Their build time was decreased to a number similar to what they had before, because we pre-built everything that was related to React Native. And finally, they had a full understanding of their code base.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and if you're interested about these cases, generally at Callstack, we did multiple integrations like that in the past, so you can read about some of them in the projects section in our website.
Oh yeah, we have some case studies and we have some articles, and we have you on React Native Show podcast number 6. And we have you on the conference, React Native EU, so we will link all of that materials below this episode.